I'm not back. I'm not back. I'm just back for one video. I did this last year. This was a challenge I set myself throughout the month of December where I let my advent calendars pick the books I was going to read and enjoyed it so much I thought I would do it again and film it. So for 1 month only, welcome back to Drinking by My Shelf. My name is Emma. Let us open my advent calendars. So between Ralph and I, we actually have managed to collect 4 advent calendars this year. 3 picture ones, which are my personal favourite type of advent calendar, and as a special treat, we bought ourselves a Playmobil Bakery advent calendar because we are adults. So I'm going to start with this beautiful one over here. It's a squirrel! We have squirrels in our garden. Okay, it might be hard pressed to think of a book that's relevant for a squirrel, but we'll come back to that. For this special treat, I don't actually know how this works. I'm not sure what kind of things we're going to find in here. Are we building a bakery? Are we getting baking tools? I don't know. We have in here some plastic packaging. It's good for the world. It's a Playmobil. I collected so many Playmobils when I was growing up. Her head's on sideways. She's from The Exorcist. Meet Melinda, the town baker. That name just came to me. I have a talent where when I see a Playmobil, I intuitively know their name. And she is just going to sit in her bakery. Welcome to Christmas Town. So far we have squirrel and baker. Don't worry, there's 2 more to go. This was a beautiful advent calendar from my mum. And we have a Santa hat. Okay, that's any generically Christmas book will work for that. And finally, this snowy scene is a Christmas tree. Lovelight Farms by B.K. Borison is officially adorable. I gave this one 4 stars. It was a really, really cute, lovely start to Christmas. I picked this one because of the Christmas tree, and it was set on a Christmas tree farm, so that was a very good match. But I actually think it hit everything because there was also the hat. There was the Christmas hat in my advent calendar kind of made like a tenuous link with the fact that the male love interest was wearing a hat on the front cover. If you can hear that noise, that's just Hippo drinking water very loudly behind me. But the hat actually featured quite a lot. She really fancied him in his hat, so that was relevant. Also, Melinda the baker, she was called Layla in the book, but baking was a big part of it, and they mentioned a lot how delicious Layla's baked goods were. I don't specifically remember there being a squirrel, but there probably was. Anyway, Lovelight Farms was adorable. It was the most like low stress, low jeopardy romance I've ever read. Really nothing goes wrong in this book at all. So right from the beginning, from like pretty much page 1, I think actually page 1, you're introduced to the main couple who are best friends. They've been best friends for a decade and they're clearly in love with each other, and it's so obvious they're in love with each other. So when they agree to fake date for the purposes of like a social media competition, you can instantly see where it's going, and the fake dating blurs very quickly into real dating. And I was waiting for like, what is the 3rd act breakup going to be about? And it honestly lasted a few pages. It was like tiny little miscommunication that was resolved instantly. There was like a whole lying plot in this, the fact that they were fake dating, that also got resolved with no consequences at all. It was just like the coziest, most feel good, happy, no stress, nothing goes wrong book, which actually I loved. So if you're looking for a very, very cute, Christmassy, feel-good book that would just make you smile and not give you any moments of stress, and this is the one. The only stress I felt in it was when he just shout at the main female character for what an idiot she was, because it was so obvious that he's in love with her. Like, we know from her perspective, because it's narrated from her perspective, she's been in love with him, that whole friendship. But how could she not tell that he was in love with her as well? He was giving her all the signs. Had she never read a book before? Had she never seen a movie before? That was a man in love with her. Anyway, it was cute, and I took a stroll in the park and went and looked at a real Christmas tree farm while I was reading it, and listened to Christmas Tree Farm by Taylor Swift on repeat, which I do every day anyway. Okay, day 5 of the Playmobil Bakery. We are getting some little mixing pots. Look at how well our bakery has come along. Melinda's got her work cut out for her. And then we have a little bird. What kind of bird is that? It's a nice Christmas bird. So we've got birds bowls. Okay. Holly! Is that a donkey? Birds, bowls, holly, and donkeys. I spent a really long time deciding what to read for this prompt. I was really stuck on it. Mostly I spent a lot of time fixating on what kind of bird that was before landing on pigeon for a really long time, and then suddenly realising it was probably a turtle dove. Turtle dove is a kind of pigeon, so I circled back around and I decided to listen to a short story which I found for free on Spotify called The Pigeon. Within a few seconds of listening to it, I was like, I want to listen to a story about a pigeon. So I went back to the drawing board, and anyway, long story short, I'd completely forgotten I actually have a little collection of Christmas stories right here, and inside there is one called Green Holly, so that fit the Holly prompt. So I read this story called Green Holly by Elizabeth Bowen. It is a Christmas ghost story and it made no fucking sense at all. I got to the end of it, I had no idea what happened. I read it twice, I did not understand it, I did not get it. So that was not the biggest success. I'm going to give that one star. I did then think, because that was so short, that I could have another little go, and so I took the donkey prompt and I read Eeyore Has a Birthday by A.A. Milne, which was delightful and heartbreaking, and in contrast I will give this one 5 stars. Eeyore has a birthday. He doesn't think anyone's going to remember, because they didn't. No one's present goes quite according to plan, but it still makes Eeyore happy. Back again for day 6. It's Father Christmas! Oh, it's his naughty and nice list? Hang on. Amazing. Father Christmas himself. If I hadn't just read the list, I could have read the list. Ooh. A little boy hanging up his stocking up a ladder. Ooh, a wreath. Let me say that again without the squeaking. A wreath. A snowflake. Ooh. What an interesting day. I have a very confusing review for this one. So for this prompt, I decided to use the picture of the boy climbing a ladder to read A Ladder to the Sky by John Boyne. I have read John Boyne once before. I read The Heart's Invisible Furies, which is one of my favourite books ever. So I was quite excited to read him again. And I do not know what to make of this book, A Ladder to the Sky. So it's divided into 3 sections, each from a different perspective, and it's basically about a really ambitious writer who will use anyone in his path to achieve success, basically. So the first section is from the perspective of an old man who has been a writer throughout his whole career. He's German and he meets this very attractive young man who is that ambitious main character. And sort of is infatuated with him, and so that's where their story begins. And that whole first third of the book is narrated from the perspective of this old man. And I thought it was brilliant. It's like, yes, John Boyne, done it again. Honestly thought it was fantastic, on track to be a 5-star read. Really beautifully written, really moving, really emotional, really sinister, because it sort of takes you a while to realise the true nature of Morris, who's this young man. He's very talented, Mr. Ripley-esque, and I love the talented Mr. Ripley as well. So I was thinking, yes, this is gonna be amazing. That section finishes, it's very moving. I then moved on to section 2, which is narrated by a woman, and it's sort of set 10 years in the future. And that was one of the worst things that I've ever read. It was like it was written by a different person. It was like a different genre of book. So the first section was kind of literary fiction, and the second section was like a badly written psychological thriller melodrama. I love a thriller, but it was like one of the not strong examples of the genre, and so melodramatic, and none of the characters felt real at all, including the character of Morris. No longer was this creepy, sinister Mr. Ripley guy. He was just like a cartoon villain, and I didn't believe anything. The dialogue was stilted. It just all was absolutely bizarre. So I was kind of holding out hope. I was convincing myself that he was doing something, that John Boyne was doing something clever and deliberately writing it in such a different way, which he kind of was, but it just, yeah, by the time I got to the end, it was not clever enough to tie all of that together. And the final section never really backed down from the levels of melodrama. It started with this subtle, sinister story, and then just descended into absolute chaos and a lot more like on the nose than I thought it was going to be. So I don't really know what to rate it. Overall, I'm going to give it a 3 because I did really like parts of it. But it was, yeah, it was a real downhill fall from grace reading that book, which is a shame because it started off sounding like it was going to be a real hit for me. So that was A Land to the Sky. Very intrigued to see if anyone else has read that and what they thought, and if they also felt like the author had just like died halfway through and gave the rest of the book to someone else to write. It did not feel like it was written by the same person. I didn't film opening the advent calendars this morning because I hadn't actually expected to finish my book today, but I did just finish it before leaving the house for dinner, and so I will show you. I've already decided what the right match is for this. Out of the Playmobil Christmas bakery this morning, we got a cute miniature little flower, a little bag of sugar, and some eggs. And I very recently bought a book on my Kindle because it just happened to be in the Kindle Daily Deals, which I think will be a perfect fit for that. So this one was a really easy choice. Because of the little egg in the advent calendar, I chose a book that I had just bought from the Kindle Daily Deal, which is called Isaac and the Egg by Bobby Palmer. I had never heard of it before. I literally bought it in the Daily Deal because I liked the title. I haven't had an amazing track record this year, so Isaac and the Egg was fine. It's a sort of fable about grief. It's about a man who has lost his wife and he meets a little egg alien thing in the forest who he befriends, and it's just them hanging out and Isaac, the main character, coming to terms with his grief. So it's a sweet story, but it was also batshit, and the whole way through I was like, this is fine. I get the point of this, but I would like it better if I wasn't reading it anymore. Right, this is Charlie. He's got his gloves on and he's here to build a snowman. And so the prompt for today is boy, Charlie, snow, snowballs, snowman, etc. Or, over here, what's behind these two little children? Two more little children. What are they doing? Oh, it's one giving a present to the other. Oh, cute. Some little gloves. And finally, candles. Okay. Candles, gloves, boy, Charlie, snowman, snowballs, siblings, present, etc. So for this prompt, I picked A God in Ruins by Kate Atkinson for several reasons. Firstly, I was hoping that I would be able to fit in reading this book with this game, because if you watched last year's video, I read Life After Life for the advent calendar game and I absolutely loved it. It was a 5-star book. It was my favourite book I think that I read for that whole game. And this is it's kind of a sequel, it's kind of more of a companion novel. So it takes place over the same time frame, but it is about the main character of Life After Life is called Ursula, and she has a lovely younger brother called Teddy. And A God in Ruins is the kind of some of the same events but from Teddy's perspective. So I was hoping to read it, and the prompt that had the two siblings in it, and also I took the little boy out in the Playmobil bakery, it's like a little brother, all signs were pointing at A God in Ruins, and I extra confirmed it because even though I chose it, I didn't end up actually starting it that day, and then the next day I got rabbits out of my Playmobil bakery, and the front cover of A God in Ruins has a rabbit on it. Maybe it's a hare, we're just rolling with it. So that's why I picked A God in Ruins, and I loved it. I think that this book, I'm going to give it a 4, but it's like a really high 4. It wasn't quite to the same level as Life After Life for me, but it was such a lovely, sad, gentle book, and it was so nice being reunited with the same characters. So Life After Life, you may know, has a very interesting format in that it retells different versions of events over and over again. So the main character, Ursula, lives so many different versions of her life, and each time she dies she's born again and things go a little bit differently. So it's kind of like sliding doors, but it's one after another, life after life, all the different many versions of her life. In A God in Ruins, it does not follow that format. It just takes one possibility, one of the lives, and then tells that story, and it's Teddy's story, and Teddy is from when he's a young man and it goes off to fight as an RAF pilot through the rest of his life. and it's told quite interestingly because it jumps around in chronology. So I think the reason it wasn't quite as high a 5-star is because actually I loved that life after life format, and so it didn't have that same spark, but it did have the same characters and how amazing they were, and it did have a very interesting storytelling device that I won't go too much into without spoiling things. Yeah, I would say sad, sad, lovely companion book. My favourite book that I have read so far from this challenge, but still nothing has quite hit that 5-star spot, which is interesting because this time last year I got a lot of 5 stars out of this game. Is it more presents? Look how cute and tiny. So we've got a tiny little PlayStation thing, a tank, a dildo, and I don't know what this is, but essentially we've got toys. Presents! Presents is the theme. Toys and presents. And here we have, oh, a little robin. I actually forgot to film opening my 4th advent calendar, which is a shame because this is the most relevant one because it's the picture I've actually decided to base my next book choice on. But here you can see number 22, which is what it is today, is a cute little snowy house. I wish it would snow like that now. Okay, The Christmas Appeal by Janice Hallett I picked because it's got snowy houses on the cover, like the snowy house in the advent calendar. Also, it was a present, an early Christmas present, and also it's a toy. It's kind of a toy because you kind of try and solve the mystery as you go along. This was just the best Christmas fun. I loved it. So The Appeal was the first Janice Hallett book that I read. It was her first book, and I loved it so much. It's what made me completely fall in love with Janice Hallett's books. I've read them all, I've loved them all, and I think that they have got kind of cleverer as she's gone along. But The Appeal, what I loved so much about that one, the original Appeal, is that it was funny. And I really loved the like multimedia format of it, but it just made me laugh the whole way through. It was just kind of ridiculous with these really eccentric characters. In The Christmas Appeal, we get to go back to those characters, and so I loved it. Read it all in one go. It wasn't as clever in the kind of storyline and the twists as her later ones, but it got all of the humour back, and so I actually was just like laughing out loud as I read it. All in one go. That's a dog who wants to be walked. It was just a really, really fun Christmassy book. Still 4 stars though. And then just in time for one more book in December, let's see what's behind the final doors. What is that? Oh, is it a Christmas tree? Look how cute. And that completes our Christmas bakery scene. And the final door over here. Oh, it's a little nativity scene. Okay, Jeezy Crease himself. This one is on the door of the church, so it's possible we're going to get another Jeezy Crease. And it is! It's another nativity! Look at that! That's nice. So I actually pre-filmed that last footage that you just saw before we came home for Christmas, just in case I needed a book for that day, and it turns out that I do, because I read The Christmas Appeal all in one day yesterday. I didn't read any more after I finished it because I went out for dinner, which means that today, Christmas Eve, I need to start my final book. So far, we took out a big Christmas tree and then 2 nativity scenes. So unless I actually want to read the Bible, I'm hoping that it's not another nativity scene behind these doors. It's Father Christmas with a present. Interesting. Okay, so this was obviously not going to be my 5-star finale because for this prompt I picked Christmas Shopaholic by Sophie Kinsella. And the reason that I say this was obviously not going to be a 5-star finale is because I have read quite a few of these books before. In fact, I attempted to read the whole series and failed for a 24-hour readathon. And I hated them. That's not strictly true. I loved the first 2. They were ones that I'd grown up with. But as the series went on, it was such a massive decline. I'll link below to the 24-hour readathon, but actually I think funnier to rewatch, which I've just done, is my balancing the books afterwards, where I basically just have like a full mental breakdown talking about how much I hated those books. But anyway, I picked Christmas Shopaholic because as the Christmas entry to this series, I had always slightly still wanted to read it, and it has, on the front, a Christmas tree made out of presents. And I had tree and presents in my advent calendars. I also had Father Christmas, and Becky is dressed as Father Christmas. So this cover just seemed too perfect, and it is really fun reading a Christmassy book at Christmas. And you know what? I didn't hate this one. It's book number 9 in the series, and I had read up to book 6, and I think book 6 was like a 1 star. They had really plummeted for me. I hated the latest one so much, and this was kind of a return to form. I really enjoyed this one. I say really enjoyed. I'll give it a 3. I'll give it a 3, but that's pretty good still. What I loved so much about the earliest books in this series is that Becky herself was a really great character. She was really funny. She was a disaster and a compulsive shopper and a compulsive liar and a convinced that she was the best at everything she ever did. So she was completely ridiculous and kind of hateable, but also very, very lovable and ultimately a good person, or at least tried to be a good person. And as the series went on, that really went away and she became just like one of the worst characters I've ever read in fiction ever. And I think that Becky was slightly, was partway back in this book. She actually had to learn to draw on some of her own resources, some of her own inner resources to get things done, rather than just relying on people, other people spending a lot of their money to bail her out of situations. I also think it had some real Christmas spirit at the heart of the book. It's quite a nice ending. As far as I know, it's the ending. I don't know if she's going to write another one, but it's currently the ending to this series. It's a nice ending that the most consumerist person alive approaches the most consumerist holiday alive and actually ends up finding the real Christmas spirit at the heart of it. They had a little motto, which is that anything the Grinch can steal isn't Christmas. That's not what Christmas is about. And I really liked that. Ultimately, what she wanted was to have her friends and family around her, and she became actually a generous, kind person for a lot of that. Anyways, that wasn't my 5-star finale, but it was a very happy Christmas finale. So other than Eeyore's birthday, I didn't actually read any 5-star books in this video, but I still really enjoyed coming back for one video only. I will not be making a permanent return to this channel. I'm very excited to put this camera back in its drawer, but I have liked chatting to you again throughout this month, and maybe this will be an annual thing. Maybe it'll be a drinking by my advent calendar once a year kind of channel from now on. I wish you all the very best 2024s and happy reading over the next year.